Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the best examples of American culture chosen by you. I reacted to him doing an American culture based video a few days ago, and it was like shows certain things that you just make you sort of see the American culture, and sort of that's what you relate to American culture. So games like GTA and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess he made a part 2 where people suggest certain things, and that's pretty much it. Hopefully going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions to many different things. Movie reactions, series reactions, YouTube videos that I can't post because of copyright or whatever. Just all that stuff. And yeah, links are in the description. Also like halftime show, just anything is pretty much like the halftime show that happened recently and halftime shows from the past. But links are in the description if you want to see those. But we're going to jump into this and see the best examples of American culture chosen by the people.
Friends, it is me, JJ.
Fucking hell, it's loud.
Everybody's favorite. So last week we had a lot of fun talking about various works of pop culture that are in some ways distinctly American, and today we will continue that conversation using the many good examples that you guys left in the comments. I really have one of the smartest audiences on YouTube, I must say. It's true, whenever I talk to other YouTube people, they're always like, man, JJ, I wish my audience was as smart as yours. Your audience actually does what you ask them to do, whereas mine just spams me with endless comments about what a simp I am. Anyway, declaring a work of pop culture distinctly American is obviously subjective to some degree. Many different things will say American to different people, but the definition I was using last time and the definition that I am going to continue to use today relies on the following 2 variables. A, the work takes place in America, and the fact that it takes place in America, as opposed to somewhere else, is very central to its premise, and or B, the audience of the work has to have substantial pre-existing knowledge of American daily life, or history, or civics, or things like that, in order for the work to have maximum impact. If the audience doesn't have considerable knowledge of American culture, by contrast, the work will probably seem fairly alienating or exotic. Okay, so that being the criteria, one of the most common nominees that you guys offered up was the 1994 Tom Hanks film, Forrest Gump. For those who haven't seen it, it is...
I've never seen Forrest Gump. That's crazy, because that is such a well... I've not seen The Goonies, I've not seen Forrest Gump. There's so many iconic films that I've never seen. Maybe that's something I could react to, because I know people like movie reactions, but they're films that I've never seen. So yeah, maybe that'll come in future. But I know it's a very iconic film, and I don't even know what it's about, but he's probably going to explain it.
Is a movie about a sort of simple-minded guy who lives through some of the most fascinating decades of 20th century America, from his humble childhood in the rural South in the 1940s to his success as a businessman in the 1980s. What makes the film so good and so powerful is the contrast between the simple decency of Forrest Gump as a man and the wild, chaotic energy of 20th century America as personified by some of the other characters, particularly his love interest, Jenny. It is also a film with a lot of ironic humor, and one of the running gags is the way that Forrest Gump has sort of unintentionally been responsible for a bunch of big, important American things, from the Watergate scandal to the Happy Face logo. So yes, excellent choice. Forrest Gump was directed by Robert Zemeckis, a man who has produced a number of other very good and very distinctly American films as well, including Contact, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and the Back to the Future trilogy, which a number of...
I want to do reactions to these as well, because I've seen bits of one of these films. I can't remember which one, but I don't know where to watch them. I don't know, because I want to react to them, but I don't know where to watch them because they cost quite a lot of money to react to. I was hoping they were on Netflix or something, but...
You brought up as an example of very distinctly American filmmaking as well. Another name that came up a lot was Quentin Tarantino.
My brother loves him. That's like his favorite movie creator.
Notably another one of the great aggressively American filmmakers of the modern age. His 1994 crime film Pulp Fiction in particular is often held up as one of the masterpieces of modern American cinema. Pulp Fiction is a fairly complex film involving a lot of characters, but what makes it important from our perspective is just the degree that Quentin Tarantino went out of his way to cram the movie full of as many references to American life and culture as possible. So there are key plot points involving American history, sports, music, even fast food.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Even the title, Pulp Fiction, is itself a claim of continuity with the American tradition of pulp fiction storytelling, which is to say kind of tacky or trashy stories with over-the-top sex and violence, which of course is basically Quentin Tarantino's entire oeuvre. As far as TV goes, the shows made by Greg Daniels came up a lot. Greg Daniels was a writer for The Simpsons, a show I celebrated in the first video, who went on to co-create King of the Hill, the American version of The Office, and Parks and Rec. When you look at that resume, it is pretty clear that the man has a gift for creating distinctly American characters and settings. I must confess that I haven't seen that much of The Office, but I have seen every single episode of Parks and Rec, and that is a show that is just crammed to the brim with Americanness. Parks and Rec is a sitcom about the government of a fictional city called Pawnee, and it is quite Simpsons-like to the extent that Pawnee is used as a stand-in for like the entire United States. So most of the characters and settings represent very recognizable archetypes of American suburban life. And of course, the fact that the main setting is a government allows for all sorts of satirical comedy on American political controversies as well. Very funny show, very well written, very American. Greg Daniels is also a former writer for Saturday Night Live, a show that many of you nominated
SNL.
as well. Now, a lot of countries have shows that are kind of like SNL, which is to say a satirical show featuring comedy sketches about the news and celebrities and politics and society more broadly. So SNL is not necessarily a distinctly American idea, but it is the best American manifestation of a certain comedy tradition, which is to say very current events driven satirical comedy intended entirely for a domestic audience. Some of your other popular nominees for most culturally American TV shows included Twin Peaks, both the original and the reboot, The Sopranos, and Seinfeld. I don't have time to get into all of these shows right now.
I've done reactions to Seinfeld. I've done one reaction to that, and then obviously Friends stuff. There's a lot of sitcoms that I don't know. Are sitcoms in like the 90s just a very American thing? Because there's like The Fresh Prince, Seinfeld, Friends. There's another one that I reacted to that I can't remember. Yeah, I guess they are somewhat. Sitcoms are just an American thing, especially through the 90s and stuff.
But they undeniably all take place in very vividly realized depictions of the United States, and they all tend to presume a lot of pre-existing American cultural knowledge on the part of their audience. When it came to the most American video games, these were the two most popular nominees by far: Fallout and GTA. Fallout is a series, now over 20 years old, that takes place in...
Is it 20 years old? See, I remember when the game came out in like 2011 or around that time, and I didn't realize it was like an American game. I just thought it was a game about the world ending. I've not played it like much. I tried playing it when I was younger and I just didn't really understand it, but I guess I didn't know that, but there's got to be reasons for that.
In an alternative timeline in which all of American social and technological progress sort of plateaued in the 1950s, which led to a sclerotic and decadent society that eventually triggered a nuclear war, wiping out much of human civilization. A lot of the American cultural references that are found in the series thus take the form of the scraps of this sort of warped American society that have survived the post-apocalyptic world, as well as the general social commentary surrounding the entire nuclear war theme. Now, I must confess, I have never actually played any of the Fallout games. Some of you told me last week that Fallout 2 was probably the best one as far as being a object of American culture goes, just because it apparently contained a lot more explicit American cultural references and in-jokes than the sequels, which apparently got more bogged down in kind of generic sci-fi world building. I was hoping I could give Fallout 2 a try on Steam, but no luck for us Mac users. So feel free to just argue in the comments about which Fallout game is the most identifiably American. Now, I have, however, played several of the GTA games over the years. A number of you singled out GTA 5 as the pinnacle of the series for our purposes, which makes sense since unlike Fallout, the GTA games have gotten more American, not less, with every passing sequel. So GTA 5 is an elaborate open world game that takes place in a fictional city that is supposed to be a satire on LA, but much like Springfield or Pawnee, is really more of a kind of broad satire of the entire United States itself. In fact, what is most interesting about the GTA universe is how absolutely everything is fictionalized. All of the places, brands, celebrities, even government agencies, and not politely fictionalized either. As TV Tropes puts it, every website, show, movie, poster, commercial, not plot important line, and comment on the radio is an unfriendly dig or parody of something. Emphasis on unfriendly. I would say GTA is a pretty mean-spirited caricature of America overall, an inflated depiction of basically every negative stereotype of American society.
That's probably true, but it is an incredible game. I can't wait for the next one, because when you actually come to think of it, how they can make all these things in a game like that, it's just insane. But some of the older GTAs are like funnier in certain ways towards like American culture, but like it's not like really a dig. It's just like they're funny, like they're memes now. Like it's just all these things that become memes because of how funny they are, you know.
From an extreme gap between the rich and the poor to a grotesque and vapid entertainment culture. But in any case, you really have to have a lot of pre-existing knowledge of America to get anything out of this satire, since everything is...
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, to a certain degree. I still think you could just play it and find it funny and just cool without having that much knowledge, but I guess the more you have, the better and more enjoyable the experience is.
It's supposed to be something, but nothing is ever explicitly spelled out for you. Now, GTA was made by Rockstar North, which is a British company, although
I found that out, I was baffled.
Lots and lots of Americans did work on it too. But in any case, I don't think something necessarily has to be made by 100% Americans in order for it to be a good work of American culture, although it does usually help. An example of a far more culturally ignorant American game made by foreigners would be Earthbound, which a number of you guys mentioned in the comments. Earthbound is a Super Nintendo role-playing game released by Nintendo of Japan in 1994 and created by famed Japanese humorist Shigesato Itoi. And don't get me wrong, I think it is a wonderful game, but it has this reputation as being some sort of clever commentary on American culture that I just think is completely undeserved. Earthbound does take place in a sort of vaguely American setting, in the sense that it has high-rises and shopping malls and hamburger restaurants. But beyond that, it is only American in the most superficial and stylized way, lacking much cleverness or insight or in-jokes. In fact, I would say the game is filled with missed opportunities to make references to American regional cultures or folklore or pop culture. So in other words, if almost everything in GTA is a parody, almost nothing in Earthbound is. Now, when they brought Earthbound to the US, Nintendo of America tried to aggressively market it as a piece of Americana, portraying it as like a take on cheesy alien invasion movies and like tabloid culture and stuff. But when you actually play the game, it's pretty obvious that there's not much evidence that the game was ever intended to be this. So as a work of American cultural satire, I declare it overrated. Another sort of supposedly super American thing that I do not personally care much for, but a number of you brought up, is stuff like the movie Team America World Police or the game Broforce. These are obviously things that present themselves as being super American, but
this is the Thunderbirds. I see the Thunderbirds I saw a bit, but I didn't really watch much, but it's the same sort of creation, right? It looks the same as Thunderbirds, but is Thunderbirds American as well? I guess it is.
The premise is that they are satirizing Americanness in the dumbest, most one-dimensional way possible. So they depict Americanness as being synonymous with a kind of crude, violent stupidity as seen in like 80s era action movies. I mean, I guess you could say that maybe this is some sort of commentary on American attitudes towards violence or US foreign policy or something, but in my mind, it is really just a kind of one joke caricature of a caricature without much depth. It is about as much of a window into American culture as, say, Austin Powers is a window into British culture.
That's fair enough.
All right, so now here is another thing that a number of you recommended, which I had never previously seen, but I sure am glad that I did. Over the Garden Wall. This is a short 10-episode animated cartoon series made by a young American animator named
Cartoon Network. I've never seen this before.
Patrick McHale, and it is a very, very funny and charming take on American fairy tales. I don't want to spoil too much about it because I really enjoyed coming in cold, but it is a show that has a lot of fun playing with various cliches and stereotypes associated with a certain kind of American folk story in the tradition of like The Wizard of Oz or Sleepy Hollow. It is a very smartly written show with a very strong satirical edge that is nevertheless not quite as blunt as some of the other things we've been discussing. Like there was this one episode where the two main characters go to visit a school, and I was laughing so hard at this episode because it is such a perfect parody of a certain type of American children's story without being an explicit satire of any one story in particular. Over the Garden Wall really reminded me of two other things, both of which I think are great examples of distinctly American pop culture in their own right. The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is in many ways...
Oh my god, I love this film. This was like my childhood. Well, I say my childhood, my brother again, this was his favourite film. I like the film, but this was his favourite film. Like, it was like he would watch it on repeat and all this stuff. And it's weird because I used to get creeped out by this film when I was younger. Like as a kid, like as like an 8-year-old kid watching this, I would get creeped out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but
I think a similar sort of love letter to some of the tropes of American folklore. And Cuphead, which is of course a pretty explicit salute to some of the cultural tropes seen in early 20th century American animation. If you like these, you will probably like Over the Garden Wall. All right, now let us talk about a couple of songs you guys nominated. A cool one that I never heard before.
What's the most American song I can think of? A Red Hot Chili Peppers song, or Nirvana, or Green Day.
Was the song Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie, the son of the famous American folk singer Woody Guthrie. Interesting names in that family. Anyway, Alice's Restaurant is a very long song from 1967, almost 20 minutes long. That is really more of a just sort of long, rambling story of a certain episode in Arlo Guthrie's life, what is sometimes known in American culture as a shaggy dog story. But it's a very uniquely American story that starts off being about Thanksgiving before winding into all of these weird and equally American places. When I was listening to it, I was reminded of the kind of long, rambling ballad you'd like imagine an Irish folk singer to have written about taking the pig to the market or something. Alice's Restaurant is basically that kind of song, but with more contemporary American cultural references. A very unique work that is hard to summarize, but I recommend it. A lot of people also recommended American Pie, a 1971 song by...
I know this because of Tyson Fury. He sings it after every fight. But this is based off a film, isn't there? There's a film series called American Pie, isn't there?
Don McLean. This is another rather long song from the glory days of American folk rock. What is it about? Well, the lyrics are famously all over the place. Here is how the Washington Post put it. The song includes references to Karl Marx, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, or more likely, John Lennon, the Fab Four, the Byrds, James Dean, Charles Manson, the Rolling Stones, the widowed bride Jackie Kennedy, and the Vietnam War. Plus many other things that defined American culture at that time, including most notably the plane crash that killed Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. People have tried to suss some deeper social commentary out of this dense stew of cultural references, but Don McLean himself has always maintained that the song was more about capturing the mood of a time than anything else. An indescribable photograph of America that I tried to capture in words and music. And who is best at capturing present-day America in words and music? I'm not really sure that that sort of thing really exists as much these days. A couple people said early college dropout era Kanye, which I guess I can sort of see. A lot of other people said country music in general. Country music might be a very distinctly American style of music, but I think that ultimately it might be a little too regional to engage with more broadly resonant American themes and references. I kind of feel the same way about Western-themed things in general, which a number of you brought up in different contexts. Though that's not to say that Bo Burnham's hilarious takedown of the country and Western music industry in the song Pandering, which a number of you mentioned, isn't a wonderful piece of work for what it is.
A dirt road, a cold beer, a blue jeans, a red pickup, a rural noun, simple adjective.
So, I hope you enjoyed this little tour.
I enjoy this stuff. It's fun. I don't know if there's another part, but I enjoy these little breakdowns. It's interesting to see. Ranking the greatest Americans in history. You got Ellen, you got Bush, and you got... who is it again? Played for... I think the Packers. Fuck, I don't know, but... it's an interesting selection of Americans. But, yeah. This was a fun reaction. I like this guy's channel a lot. And, yeah, if you want more reactions to him, let me know in the comments. And, yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Actually, let's see some of the comments. When he was calling us smart, it was like first grade teacher telling us how we were favourite class ever. The Sandlot is super American. The Godfather is also very American. See, I've never seen The Godfather and The Sopranos, which I think... I mean, I know they're very iconic movies. Is The Sopranos a movie or is it a series? I don't know if that's a movie or a series, but I know about them and possibly check them out as well. Hating SNL is more American than liking it. I have done reactions to SNL, to be fair, but only a few on my Patreon. But Always Sunny in Philadelphia. See, I've heard of that, but I've never watched it. I don't know. Is it a series? Is it a sitcom? I don't know. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. And until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.